Oh no.
We find ourselves worse rights. I'm like watching you get involved in the
Remember when you first if by the end of the day, if you're not laughing, then you're
yeah, and I think really just
checking out the resident bug population. I got one ladybug over here. Gotta be careful. There are a lot of the little stink bugs, you know, like, and you can't see them in the carpet and everything. They're here. How's everybody?
How are you?
I'm fine. Happy to be here.
Happy.
So let's see. Today's class is all about meditation because we are in this chapter in Geshe Thupten Jinpa's book that offers different ways in which to develop compassion. So we're more sort of in the, I don't know, solutions is the right word, but we sort of transitioned in the material in the book. And so this whole class offers different meditation techniques for helping us build mindful awareness. So it's a little bit different from the previous classes in this series, so I hope you will enjoy it. So let's start by setting our motivation for coming here. Just a little pause, a little self-reflection. So we'll do that, and then we'll do the opening meditation prayer. But for setting our motivation, let's sit comfortably with our back straight, eyes open or closed. Feeling safe, grounded, and loved in this sacred space. So let's just ask ourselves, why did we come here today? Was our motivation just for ourselves? Or did we come thinking that this would be of benefit to others as well. By getting to know ourselves better, by being able to watch our minds and emotions, does that benefit others as well? Maybe that's our aspiration. By doing this, can we benefit just a handful of people? Maybe our close friends and coworkers. Or do you think that by cultivating loving compassion and wisdom, that we can benefit many people now and in the future? So with that personal motivation in mind, then let's continue with the meditation, the 4 immeasurables, the prayer in the booklet. How wonderful it would be if all living beings were to abide in equanimity, free from attachment and hatred. May they abide in that way. I shall cause them to abide in that way. Please bless me to be able to do so. How wonderful it would be if all living beings had happiness and its causes. May they have these. I shall cause them to have them. Please bless me to be able to do so. How wonderful it would be if all living beings were free from suffering and its causes. May they be free. I shall cause them to be free. Please bless me to be able to do so. How wonderful it would be if all living beings were never parted from fortune and the supreme bliss of liberation. May they never be parted. I shall cause them never to be parted. Please bless me to be able to do so. So we've been talking about how the mind works. And so before we start doing these meditations, I wanted to kind of bridge the previous chapters with the meditation chapter by just saying, we've been talking about how the mind, projects thoughts and emotions on experience. And we talked about acceptance, right? We were talking a lot about how acceptance is, how suffering is actually, experience of suffering is a choice, and it's the product of pain and the resistance that we experience, right? The resistance that we feel compounded with the actual pain gives rise to this experience of suffering. And we talked about how thoughts and emotions trigger, a reactive response. And so through mindfulness, then we need to be able to put a short pause in between the experience and our response. So instead of just reacting on an emotional level very quickly, then with mindful awareness, we're able to stop, take a look, apply some reasoning and logic to the situation, perhaps trying to see the situation from the other person's perspective, and then offer a more measured response. And so I had this funny experience, and it occurred to me, like, if you have to express an experience in a very short phrase, right? Like, remember, you know, if you Twitter, right, how many characters? You only get 140 characters, something like a very, very short phrase. Or if you're texting somebody, you know, and you're like me and you can barely see, so you have to be very careful with how many, you know, letters you type, because you're going to get them wrong, right? And correct it. Then you're going to be very careful in how you express yourself, right? So, for example, so I have two coats. One coat is the coat that I wear to walk my dog, my foster dog, right? So it's like this old coat, so I don't care about it. I have one other coat. I have one decent coat. It's a red coat that my mom gave me. So the dog ripped my coat, the good coat, right? So I could express this. Well, think of the difference here. I mean, this is just silly, but I think it's an example. If I was to share this with somebody, I would say, there's a real difference between just saying, a dog ripped a jacket, right? If you read that in a text message, you'd be like, yeah. Well, versus the dog ripped my jacket, right? And it's starting to feel different because it's my jacket, you know, like the ego's already there. Then if it was my dog ripped my insert adjective, right? Favorite jacket, my only decent jacket, right? But you could also say, you could add the adjective before the dog, right? You qualify that, right? It would be my foster dog, my stupid dog, my, you know, whatever, right? Then you feel, right, the emotions engaging. And then the last thing that you might qualify this would be like adding the thought of because, right? Adding the reason, right? Why? Because she was over threshold, because she was upset, because she was so excited, she was overjoyed, right? Blah, 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 right? So you can see how, you know, if you're just simply presenting the facts, what we're trying to differentiate here is between the simple presentation of facts versus, you know, where your opinions start getting involved. So as part of, you know, the mindful awareness training, right, we're trying to, trying to figure out what's actually happening and how much additional adjectives and adverbs we're adding to this, embellishing and creating something extra. Right? Maybe that's the juicy, spicy part of life. But again, if you're just texting, you have very short, you know, like bare fact minimum way of presenting reality is quite different from the way we actually experience it. Okay. So that's a pretty boring example. But then to make this a little bit more exciting, right? So here's another sentence. A dog ran away in the woods. Okay. My dog ran away in the woods. Again, that's, you know, my dog getting more upset. I'm texting this to somebody. My dog ran away in the woods because she saw a squirrel. Right? This actually happened to me. Beatrice got away from me. And after she ran away, I was just like, this is really bad. And so I was watching my mind as I started thinking, okay, how am I going to tell, because she's a foster dog, how am I going to call the shelter and tell them that the dog ran away in the woods way up at the top of the hill? I'm thinking, oh, you know, how am I going to present this? What actually happened? And I wasn't actually, felt like too much time worrying about that versus getting the dog back. So I stopped, you know, and they always say, don't run after the dog, because if you run after her, she's going to just run faster. Boy, this dog can run fast. So I stopped myself. I know you're supposed to be doing like mindful breathing and everything and not panicking. I thought about that afterwards. So fortunately, she came to her senses, and I think it was less than a minute later after my calling her, she did come back. But then, even after she came back, again, my mind was like, oh, how do I tell somebody about this? This is blah, 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 blah. And then I just decided to I limited myself to like a 4-word text message to somebody, and that was it. But it's just interesting to watch the mind, as it starts spinning and coming up with these historical narrative presentations of the experience, right? So I'm sure you can all think of your own examples, and as you move forward, right, just try to keep that in mind. The bare text message experience versus the embellished novel, right? The short story version of what happened. Okay, so let's try some different meditation techniques that can help us build that capacity to be mindful. And these are, all I did was to go through Jimba's book, and he has a series of exercises, so we're going to try those. I think I'm going to add, I can't remember, I don't think he had sound, so we're going to start with sound. And so I'm adding 2, sound and the body scan. So we'll do the starting with sound. So I'll say one more thing, which is that we're going to go through several different meditation techniques today. And because we don't have too much time, then, if the magic doesn't happen like today, if you're not used to meditating, and if you do this for 5 or 10 minutes and then you think, gee, that was okay, but there's got to be something better, or it didn't work for me, or this and that, then of course, you want to realize that this takes practice, like anything, right? So if it doesn't happen for you today, don't think that, oh, you got to go find something else, right? Just stick with it and keep trying over and over again, and eventually you'll be able to do this much more proficiently, right? So we're starting with kind of the more gross level types of meditation, and then working down to watching the mind itself. So for the meditation on sound, then it's as simple as it sounds, like, no pun intended. We're going to start by sitting comfortably with our backs straight. So shoulders back a little bit and down. And then your neck should be at a relaxed angle, supporting the head. So you're looking down a few feet in front of you. You can keep your eyes open or closed, depending on whether your mind feels distracted or not. If it feels very distracted, then it may be better to keep your eyes closed. And then your hands can be on your, folded in your lap or on your knees, and whatever feels better for you. Just try not to slump over. So you can check your posture from time to time. And then the meditation on sound is just listening to the ambient sounds in the room. So we'll do this for a couple of minutes. Again, the idea is to focus your mind on a particular object of meditation. And so in this case, we're saying it's the sounds. So try to just, without necessarily labeling the sounds, just just be open to the different experiences of sound. So that if your mind starts wandering off thinking about your to-do list, or sudden waves of emotion, maybe a experience from the past or a concern for the future. When those experiences arise, then try to just bring your attention back to the sounds. So that's really the same technique, no matter which type of meditation we'll be doing. Same idea of bringing the mind back to what your chosen object of meditation is. Okay, so let's start now. Bring your attention back to the space that we're in together. So what did you feel? What did you notice?
Calmness, peace, just listening to the form spell. It's calm. So it kind of puts your mind into more of a calm state, at ease state.
Okay.
Which is beneficial.
Almost no presence. I'm no longer aware of my body at all.
Okay.
That's it's a dance rather than motor.
Anybody else?
I was able to feel the sound and without any tightness in my body like we had yesterday.
Oh,
And no images coming to interrupt me. Just the sounds.
well, there's certainly sounds around us all the time. So I think particularly if you're walking outside, it's very nice to be going to walk and listen to the birds or the sound of the rain or the sound of your own breathing, sound of your feet on grass, lots of sounds. So lots of reminders to come back to watching the mind. So let's do the next meditation, which is scanning the body. And again, I'm sure many of you have done this before. So it's just another opportunity to practice together. So we're sitting in the same relaxed and open posture. The idea behind the body scan meditation is to explore the different changes, the impermanence of the body and the movements of the mind and the winds in the body. So that's kind of the reason for doing this. So we can begin at the crown of our head. You can think of your awareness in the form of a small ball of light. If that's helpful, you certainly don't have to. And then beginning at the crown, we're going to work our way down, across the forehead, down around the temples, down around the eyes, just looking with curiosity, seeing what's going on. See what you notice, what you feel in these different areas. Down around the cheeks. The lips and the jaw. Pausing and breathing into areas that may seem a little tense. And around the neck, back of the neck, the front. Tops of the shoulders, particularly where the neck meets shoulders, that collarbone area. Going down the left arm, bringing that awareness in the form of white light. Going all the way down to the fingers of the left hand. Maybe they feel cold or tingly or warm. And then back up, across the shoulders, breathing, going down the right arm, same thing. Down to the fingers of the right hand. Feeling the contact between the fingers of both hands. And then back up. And then down the torso. On the inhalation, feeling the fresh air expanding your lungs. Notice the beating of the heart. And moving down to the abdomen. And down the left thigh, calf, and the left foot. Wiggling your toes. Bringing the energy back up around and down the right leg. And then just sit with the experience of the body as a whole. Witnessing the moment-to-moment change. Completely letting go of any external labels, any self-identity. Age, beauty, illness. Relaxing into a sense of well-being and goodness. Okay, what did you notice in meditation? Any different from the sound?
It's just, it's good to, you know, feel where the tension are. Like sometimes I have a tendency to go on my shoulder and stuff, so I can go, ready to go. My lower back, my lips are tense.
Yeah,
So you just become aware of that.
right. There might be areas that are tense that you didn't previously realize that the tension was there. Right. Yeah, and as you were watching your body, did you notice changes over? We did this for maybe, I don't know, 10 minutes or something.
Breathing, at least for me, it was worse than just usually the chest, but actually after a while, I could feel even refuge through my arms and legs.
Great.
Did whatever it did that way. That's kind of interesting.
Sometimes areas that didn't hurt before start to hurt. Right? Like your knees are like, hey. Yeah. So that's also a very good meditation to do when you have a few moments. Often we can find moments, you know, during the course of our busy days to just stop and do these meditations. Or find the time. Maybe you're getting in your car to go somewhere, but you stop for 2 or 3 minutes and do this kind of whole body meditation. Just checking up, right? Just checking up to see what's going on. And I think that's important because then, you know, if you do have some kind of illness or, you know, a budding problem, if you're checking up constantly with this very gentle and friendly perspective, then you're more likely to maybe find these concerns, you know, nip them in the bud or bring attention to them earlier on, because our body is always telling us things, but often we're not paying attention. Okay, so we're gonna do a deep breathing meditation. Unless there are any comments before we move on. Do you want to stand up? This is a compassionate meditation class. If you feel like you want to just stand up and shake out your legs, please go ahead and do so. We were going to do a walking meditation, but I think maybe the class is too big. If you just want to shake out your legs, that's fine. So the deep breathing meditation, again, I'm sure is familiar to you. But the idea here is to practice a deep diaphragmatic breathing. So the idea is if you breathe with a little bit more force and intention, again, just for a short period of time, then that kind of jump starts the meditation because it's coarser, right? It's rougher. And then later on, we'll focus on doing meditation on the natural rhythm of the breath, which tends to be more subtle and a little harder for the mind to follow. So if you're ready, then we'll go back to our meditation posture. If you're sitting on the floor and you've decided that a chair is starting to look a lot better, please feel free to get up. Whatever's better for you is the good choice, the right choice. So for deep breathing again, shoulders back, chest open. I always have to say that because I start to collapse, so I have to remind myself. We begin by just taking a very long, deep breath, just like if you're at the doctor's office and the doctor has the stethoscope, right? They say, take a deep breath, right? You have to make a pronounced effort to breathe all the way, filling your lungs and then bringing the air all the way down so that the diaphragm expands, right? So your belly expands, and then hold it for a second, and then on the exhalation, push out, consciously push out and say, ha. Exhale with a sigh of relief or audible sound. Okay? So we'll do that for a few minutes. And you should be able to hear yourself inhaling, right? I invite you to return to our space. Comments, experiences?
When I start out, I noticed my breathing is shallow, and I discovered that on the inhale, I push to go deeper, it's more relaxing, and the holding feels good. And the breathing out, I can feel the breath extending beyond.
Okay. Any experience of color when you do this? My head's nodding. Sometimes on the.
Do you experience that? I mean, I'm just curious to know what that is, colors, you know?
So sometimes I find that as I do this for a longer amount of time, then I feel like lighter. Like, I'm not consciously trying to visualize the air coming in as white, but eventually, you know, as I continue to do the meditation, it seems like I feel like there's more white light. The body feels lighter, and then when I start out, usually I feel very heavy, and then the longer I do it.
Any other colors?
Any other colors?
Yeah, just
No purples or blues. Fuchsia, lime green, no, just white. Maybe if I sat longer, it would go back to, maybe the light would go away. Any sensations related to the rest of your body as you do the deep breathing?
Lighter. Like the whole of the body gets lighter. Not just heavy.
Do you feel more relaxed? Do you find that other muscles in the body relax, open up?
physical pain kind of vanishes into the background.
Okay, great.
Very, very, very spiritual.
What about on the inhalation versus the exhalation? You know, like the inhalation, because you're breathing in so deeply, right? Doesn't it feel like you feel like energized and open, right? And then if you, that's what I'm saying with the exhalation, if you really push out, right? Like the whole body just seems to like crumple, like, you know, like a little balloon, right? When you let the air out of a balloon, and the whole body just kind of like shrivels.
I felt like the ocean, actually. I mean, I was the ocean before, the sound of breathing.
Oh.
I don't know, it's this interesting experience. It just felt like I was either in the ocean or was the ocean, or you just hear that your own breathing, it's like you're part of that.
That rhythm.
Thing, to me. That's interesting.
Anything else?
I find it much more relaxing exhaling.
The exhalation was more relaxing than the inhalation. Okay. And actually, the that pause between the inhalation and the exhalation, that's something to kind of pay attention to be aware of. Actually, that the gap, right? That gap before you do the exhalation, there's that slight pause, that slight gap. So whether you're doing the deep breathing or the breathing meditation where we're focusing on natural rhythm of the breath, which we will do shortly, then if I forget to remember it, then try to think of that gap, that space in between the breaths. Because as you meditate longer, then you'll notice that it's that gap that increases. That space is what actually becomes longer, right? Just like how does that relate to thoughts when you're meditating? Hint, hint. Between thoughts.
Yeah, between thoughts.
Exactly, yeah. So the gap between the breaths gets longer, and naturally, so does that time between the arising of thoughts. Okay. So the next meditation is called, it has some fancy name, but I wrote down Big Mind. Okay, so whatever that means to you, Big Mind. Here we're watching the mind, right? So before we're watching, why are you doing this now? Yeah, okay, whatever. So watching the mind. Seems like we should do this natural rhythm of the breathing before we do the big mind. Okay, we're going to do the big mind anyway, because I just said we're going to do the big mind. So sit comfortably, just as we were before. And I know how weird. Just going to start by just relaxing into the natural rhythm of the breath without trying to control it in any way. Focusing on the breath, the entire inhalation, abiding, and exhalation, that entire cycle. Just breathing with the whole body, not overthinking this. Just breathing with the whole body, just like a baby would breathe without even thinking about it. Very open and relaxed, letting go of any tension, any expectations of what this meditation should look like, what it should feel like, what I should be noticing. Let go of all of that conceptualization and just enjoy sitting here. Just breathing. And then relax your attention on the breath and instead focus on the space within you. Just allow your mind to become very big, like the expanse of the sky. You can think that you're standing on the edge of the ocean, and your mind is big and reflective. And again, without labeling or trying to identify the thoughts and emotions as they arise, just sit and watch them. Without following them, without engaging in their energy. Allow them to just appear and disappear of their own accord. your mind starts to scatter, you can bring your attention to the breath for a few minutes. If you start to feel sleepy, mind doesn't feel sharp, you can try opening your eyes slightly. And please bring your attention back to the breath. And when you're ready, open your eyes. So what I'd like to do now is to try doing an inquiry, which we did in one of our previous classes, where we work in pairs. And I'll give you a question, and working in pairs, so you take turns. So the first person asks the second person the question, and then the second question, the person who's responding just responds in very short 1 or 2 word responses, and then the questioner repeats the question. So, for example, and it's not a dialogue, it's really just a technique for helping us explore the topic, but by repeatedly thinking about the question over and over again, as you progress, you'll find that you dig deeper and deeper and you come up with more and more interesting responses. Anyway, it's a good technique for, it's something that we do all the time subconsciously, and it helps surface different experiences. So it's not, like I said, it's not a conversation, right? So you ask the person the question, the person responds, and then you gently ask the question again. So the tone of the questioner is important too, right? If this is not like an interrogation. So for example, I was doing this in a class just yesterday, and we were talking about empathy. So the question was something like, how will you express empathy? So let's say I would ask this to Echo, my friend Echo from Dawes. I would say, Echo, how will you express empathy? And then Echo would say something back like, by offering the other person a hug or something, right? And I would say, Echo, how will you express empathy? And then you would say, oh, I'll be a deep listener. I'll listen really carefully to the other person. Echo, how will you express it, right? So it's just for 2 minutes, and then we would switch, and then Echo would ask me the same question, right? It's really an interesting process. And we did it like, when did we do this? A couple of weeks ago we tried this, right? Everybody loved it, so they came back to class. So groups of 2, and then introduce yourself and decide who wants to ask the question first. Okay? So I think we have 2 people here, 2 people back there, Laura and Bruce, and then 2 people in the front, Christine and you guys, and then Beth, and you can figure it out. Hopefully, do we have the right number? If we don't have the right number, then if it's an odd number, then I can see how it works. 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it worked out, yeah. Okay, so I will keep the time. So okay, the question is, I'll tell you, okay. You feel good? All right, so the question is very simple. It's, what was the question? How does meditation, I was going to say, what does meditation do for you? Or what are the benefits of meditation? How do you experience the benefits of meditation? Okay, what does meditation do for you? All right, so I'll keep the time. Does that make sense? What does meditation do for you? You can rephrase it. If you don't like the question, you can rephrase it. That's fine. This is totally your thing. What does meditation do for you? Or, you know, what benefit do you feel like? That's kind of long. So I'll ring the bell for the start. You guys, you know who's starting asking the question? You good? Everybody good? Okay. Yeah. So you just keep asking the question, and the responder just 1 or 2 words. You know, like don't go on for paragraphs. Just say, "I feel calm. I feel happy." Something like that. Okay. All right. 2 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Better awareness. Ask the question.
Okay. Right? Any questions about how to do it? Just short answer response, 1 or 2 words. Now you just. Good? Okay, so now we're gonna switch. Ready to switch?
What is the meditation?
Start my day.
Okay. Nebulous. Yeah. How did that go? Helpful?
Yeah. You know something, very much expressive.
It becomes harder to express. Even though the thoughts are arising, it's harder to.
Nuances or impressions and not reaction.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's really.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Oh, a collection of words like trying to convey like
Yeah. But I think also because we're trying to just express things so succinctly, right?
Yeah.
And you get the thoughts get bigger and you're so only supposed to express them in 3 words.
like where's that? What is it?
Yeah. But at least that level of thinking starts to emerge. Anything else you'd like to share about the experience? Yeah? Interesting, helpful?
We changed the question just a little bit.
Okay.
As we went through.
Yeah.
And I found that very helpful.
Yeah.
That from, how does meditation affect you and going back and forth, and how does meditation benefit you and more? Just little nuances like that, and I found that very helpful for me.
Yeah.
When you do that, it made me look at the question a little more deeply, or holistically, or more.
We were going to do that question, actually, that same question. We were going to do that as like a group discussion. Okay. Anything else?
I think all the answer was all positive. I think there was no negativity meditation.
Oh, maybe that's the way to ask the question. What are the downsides of meditation, right?
I think we didn't find anything.
No? We could do that for another 2 minutes.
From this exercise, you realize how good meditation is for you, all of the benefits and all that, but then sometimes you forget in your daily life, like, oh, I'll do this, and it just made me realize, like, oh, if this is so good for me, why don't I make a little space for my everyday?
Right, it's
That's-
like the
that's
pep talk.
The realization I had, I was like, oh, hey.
A question to ask, why do I resist? What's the-
Yeah, right. We did that. That was the one from last time. Was the barriers to self-compassion, right? Resistance to self-compassion. So the same thing. We could do that for barriers, resistance to meditation. Okay, we're going to do that for 2 minutes. How's that? We do that? It's a really good question because here we're all excited about doing meditation. All right, ready? Do the same thing. The question is, what is the resistance to meditation? Why do I resist meditating? Okay, why do I resist meditating? You guys are so cute. I saw that. Oh,
He started it.
okay, resistance to meditation. Ready? Here we go.
Why do you want to
Because resistance is because you don't prioritize.
Okay, we're going to switch. Please remember that this is it's not a conversation, okay? So you ask the question and the other person responds, but there's no conversation in between you. No conversation, it's just short answer responses, not a dialogue. It's a tool for the responder to dig deep and to come up with answers. Okay? Here, let's start now.
Why are you? Meditation to a closer way. Why are you resisting? So why are you resisting? So why are you You don't know why.
Okay, let's wrap up now, please. Well, this was obviously a very hot topic. Generated a lot of good discussion. Okay. So the shortest answer to that question, right? Why do I resist meditation, right? So it could just have been, I don't.
There you go.
Easy story. Right. Okay.
That's when you get called anti-Buddha.
I resist it all the time. I always think of lots of things to do. Okay. So we have just 4 minutes left. Why don't we do a short meditation on loving kindness? All right. So, there's different kinds of meditation. The main difference between analytical meditation, where you're focusing on a particular topic, you're thinking about the different reasons over and over again, looking at a particular point from different perspectives. And then, so the loving kindness meditation kind of falls into that category. The other type is the concentration meditation, sometimes known as concentration meditation, where you're focusing, more on an object such as the breath or the sound, the mind, as we did earlier. So, loving kindness meditation, we've done this before, where we generate the aspiration to be able to help ourselves as well as all living beings. And so I think Jimba included this because it goes along very well in particular with the preceding chapter about self-acceptance and self-compassion. So you'll see. Again, just sitting comfortably, start by bringing to mind a close friend, a loved one, if you can, somebody who you, no, let's start with that. Let's start with that. Because I think that person is here with us now, right there in front of you. Generate a strong sense of that person's presence and the closeness and the warmth. Of your love and affection for that person. And then from the bottom of your heart, and that you're holding hands with your partner. And think, may you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be healthy. May you live at ease. May we be happy. May we be peaceful. May we be healthy. May we live with ease. May I be happy. May I be peaceful. May I be healthy. May I live at ease. Dedicate all of the positive energy, all the goodness, all the goodwill we've generated as a result of coming together, meditating together, training our minds, to ourselves, to our friends, to our community, to the world at large. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Don't forget about the food drive. See, we got the blue bin for the food drive, and a lot of people have brought coats. Still collecting coats and food until the 26th. We've gotten about, I think, 26 coats already. So thank you to everybody who's had a coat to bring. And the food bin is doing well. Thank you.
She was all morning. It's been like meditation for 30 minutes. And then they do all response stuff. I just continued to make it basically like you know about it, but I'm glad she got that. We put a sense just with the dog. So now it's 3 and he ran away. Oh, he did? Literally, like 3 days, he just took off. So we found him. So we're like, that's it. I don't want to have that feeling ever again. Have a nice rest of the day. Classes or two times in the last well, I didn't do it this week, the 2 weeks before, didn't look like there was anybody here. It's only online. Discussion group. That's why. Okay, sorry. Oh, no, not a problem. So it's online. So there's not, I don't even have to. You know what? It's sort of funny. We'll be starting a new topic. Okay. All right,